Hey, Brent, welcome back. We've got a fresh week ahead of us. This is the second time we are kind of doing a look forward into the week, the second version or second episode of Peek at the Week. And now last week, what we were talking about as far as going into that week was a week prior to the rate hikes can sometimes bring surprise. Especially last week, there wasn't much on the docket as far as information. And overall, it was a pretty quiet week. Now we're running into a week with a lot more on the agenda. We do have the Fed rate hike coming up on Wednesday. I'm sorry, I'm already predicting the hike, but the Fed rate decision on Wednesday. And there's a bunch of other stuff that kind of goes along with the theme of what kind of decision the Fed should be making. We have quarterly earnings, specifically in the tech space, which was a big part of our conversation this weekend. We talked about how there's 7, maybe 8 stocks, most of them in the tech sector, that is carrying the entire bull market. So with that in mind and some of the things coming up this week, what do you think is the most important thing to be focused on?
Well, I think the most important thing, quite honestly, is not necessarily any of the announcements that come out this week or any of the figures that are released this week. It's more the interpretation of the announcements and then also perhaps the guidance of the speakers. So I am more interested in what Powell has to say than what he actually does. And I'm really interested and curious as to how he kind of manages to, I don't know, lead the market. Because again, markets trade on expectations. You've heard this thing about, buy the rumor, sell the fact. I think everybody's kind of accepted that they're going to raise rates this week. I don't think there's going to be a big surprise this week. Or at least not in the decision. Where the surprise could come either later this week or in a couple months is how he guides towards a potential September hike. If he raises and then very strongly alludes to another hike in September, I think that could cause some excitement in the market. But if he also says something to the effect that, we hiked and we're very close to the end and that might be it, then I think markets would love that, right? So it's more the guidance than the announcement or the action this week. I'm always looking to see, and this goes the same for the ECB and the BOJ as well. They've got meetings this week as well, and so again, I'm more interested in August and September at this point than I am in July.
To interlude into this conversation, I mentioned tech. I can't believe I didn't notice that you're wearing your tech vest. And ironically, being in Argentina, you've got Patagonia on in Patagonia. Yeah,
I wasn't wearing this is not a Patagonia vest, but I was actually in Patagonia, so that's actually pretty funny. Yeah, good observation.
There you go. So speaking of observations, some of the other things that we're going to have in the data sector, we have some home price data coming out. We have the Case-Shiller 20, which looks at 20 major metropolitan markets and has an analysis that's year over year. The year over year numbers can really be misconstrued or really manipulated for different people's narratives. So be careful when that data comes out, how you interpret it. If you're coming from a really, really high growth number and you see this big change rate of change, it doesn't mean the market's crashing. It just means that rate of change has slowed dramatically, which is important, but keep it in context. And we also have the advanced report or an early GDP forecast for Q2. Now, Brent, one of the things I wanted to ask you, when looking at some of these data sets, we've got home prices, we've got GDP, and at the very end of the week, after the rate hike announcement, we have what many people believe to be the Fed's preferred version or data set for inflation, which is the core PCE, personal consumption expenditures. Now, let's be real. The Fed going into a rate hiking decision, this isn't, the 1980s movie Trading Places where the data is sealed in a yellow envelope, right? Do they know what that data report is going to say, what GDP is, and what all the housing data potentially is forecasting before they're making this decision?
Well, I think the official answer is no, they don't. But I think the real answer is they probably have a pretty good idea. And I would not be shocked to learn that they actually know. That's pure speculation on my point, but stuff like that has eventually come out time and time again that they not necessarily with regard to what you're asking, but that they knew what was going on behind the scenes. And so I think they have a very good idea. I think that it would surprise me to find out that they're surprised by a number that gets released on Friday.
Excellent. Well, let's see what the week holds for us. Thanks for checking in, and hopefully we'll be back with a midweek update for everybody. Until then, have a great week, and thanks so much, Brent.
All right, see you soon.
This show is provided for entertainment and informational purposes only. It should not be relied upon as legal, business, investment, or tax advice. Neither the hosts, guests, nor any funds they may manage intends to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies.